Hey, we live up in here, late night with Queen. So it's late night on the East Coast, okay? It's midnight. But here in the West Coast, it's 9 o'clock, and that's late for some people. It's late for some people. How you doing, Christy?
I'm great. How are you, Miss Rolanda?
I'm doing great. You may want to take this time really quick and just start sharing. Um,
From your page, right?
yeah, yeah, just start sharing from my page, and I'm gonna do the same thing real quick. So I think I'm gonna move this right here, and then right here. So, and if you go to Facebook, you'll see what we looking like. I'm just gonna. Friday at 9 p.m. every night. So we could just discuss some different things. We're going to share with y'all some topics, but also we want to hear from you too. So we're going to do a few things. So this will be our time. And if you have topics and things you want us to talk about, send them to us. Let us know, hey, I think we should be talking about X, Y, and Z. I know a lot of us are in quarantine or in the house or whatever, but we can still be social with each other. This is like a social hour. We just get to kind of talk and share our thoughts and views and stuff. So yeah. So what about you, Christy? Talk to me.
Well, I'm excited. We've been talking about doing something visual for a long time. So you did
Yeah.
it at late night. That's my time.
Yes, Lord.
So
Yes, it
how
is.
could I resist? I had to do it. She got me.
Ooh, Lordy, it was work though, y'all. Don't get it twisted. Don't let Christy. It's hard getting Christy catch 'em. You gotta get them catch 'ems. You gotta catch
Well,
'em.
I'm excited to
You know what I'm
be here
saying?
with you.
I'm
And we
excited
really
too.
want to do something really fun and interactive today. So we want to do a mind blowing conversation.
Right
So
on.
we know there's some things on your mind. There's been a lot of free time for some, and you want to have an opportunity to talk to each other and us about like what's on your mind, like
Right on.
anything that you want to talk about. Put it in the comments, write it in the comments,
Right on.
and we're gonna do something fun where we'll talk about it, but we're only gonna be able to talk about it for 3 minutes. So
Okay.
we'll have conversations about it, we'll read the comments, but after that 3 minutes is up, then we're gonna go to the next topic. This is something that we'll do in the beginning of Queens talking with late night talking with Queens every
Mm-hmm.
single night. So if there's topics that you have, please feel free to inbox me or Rolanda
Right
so
on.
that we can get those topics ahead of time. And yeah, let's have some fun with it. And then we're going to have an opportunity to talk more about what this whole thing will be about and what you can look forward to for the rest of the
Right
week.
on. So how does the mind blowing work?
Mind blowing works like this. So people are going to give us topics.
Okay.
I'm going to read the topics. I'm going to start the timer, and we're going to talk about that topic for 3 minutes. But after 3 minutes, it don't matter if you're in mid sentence. It don't matter if you didn't even make your whole point. We're going to stop talking about it in 3 minutes. If
Cool.
we have comments, we'll read the comments and we'll say what people have said, and then we'll also be chiming in. But after 3 minutes, we're moving on to the next topic. That's a mind blowing conversation.
Okay. Okay.
Something we do in the Sister Circle, the Sacramento Sister Circle, all the time. It's just a fun kind of way to have multiple conversations in a short amount of time and have it with a lot of different people. So it should be
Hey,
fun.
peace, Brother Malachi. He says, greetings, Queen. Bam.
Greetings.
I like that. So let me ask you this then, Christy. Earlier today, a good sister friend of mine posted something on her page and she asked me to share, and it was a question. And the question itself was around how are the powers that be going to handle equity and distance learning and K through 12 for our students?
That's a good topic to start with. So do you want to start with that topic?
Yeah, because I don't know how they. I don't know. I'm gonna need some of y'all need to chime in because that. So there was two persons. That's one sister, and then another sister friend and I post something along those same lines, and it's because how are we gonna be dealing with equity and distance learning, and is that possible for our community? Let's just be honest. I need y'all to chime in, their audience.
And I think broader than that is like, who is it important that our children are learning and getting the what information that they're getting, and like how is this gonna benefit our children as well too, right? Like,
Right on.
a lot of people have been sending their children to schools that have not been doing a very good job, and then now they're home now, right? And you are having to have a more interactive participation, and so that's a very different thing. And I think also, if we saw some of the things that our children are learning, there's a lot of questions that I have. I remember going to my cousin's school, her open house at Sacramento High School, still reading the goddamn To Kill a Mockingbird.
Wow.
In 2018, like, why are our children still reading To Kill a Mockingbird? You can call that a classic. You can call it whatever you want to. Many great authors and literature and information that we could talk about, and that should be, things that our children are learning about and analyzing and critically thinking about, and that's what you choose. I just don't understand.
Do you think this may be something equity work if enough of us look at it now? I mean, what lesson you think is going to come out of this virus making people stay home, but we know our children have to learn, if any?
I mean, you work in the schools. I think you're better equipped to answer that, to have that conversation. But I also, let's just be honest. But I also just think, like, when did our children's education ever, was it equitable? When was it ever really something that, the investment in the learning of our children and what they're learning, like, I'm not impressed. So I think this is going to guide educationally of our children. I think if we're waiting for others to fill that void and really care about our children, I think we're wasting our damn time. So that's just me.
Wow. I do think it's going to be a struggle, and I'm just going to be very honest. And I agree with you, Chris. I think the other part that makes this kind of hard, I mean, because we're not a monolith. I say that all the time, but we get seen as a monolith, honestly. And I think sometimes it's hard. Everybody has to pull their own weight, and some people don't pull their weight at all. Like that. Also really believe that this is going to show us up for real. So I think it's up to those people who do a lot of talking about equity and activists. We're going to see how active you really are when you have to go out here and make sure people's kids who are not active get what they need. That's why I'm smiling like that.
Comments.
Okay.
Let's hear.
Go ahead, get them comments in. Get them comments
in. We have a comment from Malachi. He said the California Department of Education has given guidelines to districts for distance learning. I haven't found anyone reporting on the district's progress, though. Yeah, we're going to have to wait for that, right?
Right on.
How are they going to monitor and look at the district's progress? In some places, in some districts, that much together, right? They're still figuring out how to get this information to, their children. I know in some private schools, they had laptops already. They were already equipped to kind of move forward with this. So we have to also think about that, like who has access to what and all those other things. Tashante also said, I feel like this is in these times we need to be more involved in our kids' learning experiences anyway.
Yeah.
Especially because the school system is so broken and disconnected. However, my cousin is with the kids whose living situation isn't up to par, for lack of a better term. But this is where, as a community, we gotta lean in and fill in gaps where we can. I agree with you, Tashante.
I agree with you too. I just feel like I agree with you wholeheartedly. I just know that sometimes in all communities all over the country, you have black people who are activists and that are about their life and who was doing that before. Then there are, because we had this period where everybody became an activist, but nobody got their receipts checked. So now we're at a place where, if you are an activist and you was just getting arrested downtown, that ain't nothing until you got to go to somebody's house and make sure their kid got what they need.
There's levels to this, right?
Yes, it's definitely levels. And so sometimes you can fake it, but you only can fake it so far. Because now you got to start producing. Now you got to do something. Now you got to have that real warrior spirit that you claim you had when you was getting arrested. I'm just using it as an example. Nobody in particular. But I think sometimes we do a lot of fantasy football kind of shit. And then when our kids, because our kids been struggling, but sometimes there's no glory in it. Because when you go do that work,
our kids been struggling academically, they're at the bottom of the totem pole. And we don't even make up the largest percentage of the youth that are in these schools. But best believe our children and the learning curves and gaps, we're at the bottom.
And I bet you we get a lot. I bet you the school system gets a lot of money for them too, even though they don't use it on them. But
not at all. I work with foster youth, and that whole LCAP, the local control, action plans. We looked at some of those local control action plans, and a lot of them were actually renovating the schools, buying chairs and tables for the libraries. It was supposed to specifically go to ESL learning students, foster youth, and low-income youth.
Wow.
And they did not do what they were supposed to do with that money.
Of course not. Of course not.
Okay, cool.
You have another comment.
We didn't time it.
I know. You want to read Paris's, and then we're gonna go to the next one. Just read Paris's comment, and then I'm gonna tell you the next one, the next person's thing.
Oh, you want me to read Paris?
Yeah. Before I get to.
Okay, Paris. Hey, Paris. We as community leaders need to plan for post-corona tutoring, counseling, reading, etc. We can't go back to normal because normal is going to look different when this is over. Amen to that.
Yeah.
Deshante said, like I said today, those of us who are teachers retired or in my case switched careers, we need to make ourselves available to feed our folks
with realistic tools.
Our folks with realistic tools, maybe. Right on. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I'm trying to bring some lightning. Okay.
So this is a good example. Okay. This is a mind-blowing conversation. So we were just having a conversation about equity and virtual learning.
Right.
And so now we're going to go into another topic, right?
Okay. Right.
So because we haven't got any topics from our people, but we appreciate you guys replying to what we were already talking about. Now we're going to go to a different topic, and Rolanda, you did the first one, so I'll do the topic.
Okay, you the next one. Go ahead.
I guess, let me see. My thing, and let me start my timer, because we're going to really talk about this for 3 minutes, because that's the whole point.
I be looking like a ghost. I'm trying to get my lighting right. I look like a ghost on this screen.
I know, we looking a little...
No, you look great. I look like a ghost.
Blue. Look, I look blue.
I know, but I think that has something to do with the thing, but it's all good. I'm working on it, y'all.
We all getting used to this, but like Paris said, post-corona, things are not going to be the same. This is going to be a new deal, so we're going to have to get ready or get left behind.
Right on.
All right, so I have a stopwatch.
Okay.
I'm going to start it.
Okay.
So when I say what we're going to talk about, you write it in the comments so people can know what we're talking about. And then we're only going to talk about it for 3 minutes. So me and Rolanda will only participate in that 3 minute time, and we'll also read comments in that 3 minute time. Okay, so My topic will be, dang it, I don't even have a topic.
Now, I know our sister April Jean posted something today I thought was very
Well, we
interesting.
need a different topic. It can't be
Okay.
on the same topic. It got to be
All right, let
something
me
different.
see.
Let me look on this.
Well, did you see? Yeah, well, I'm about to say you should probably look to see. I just know April Jean talked about how interesting it is when community crisis affects us all. And she used I used the term all very lightly. Leadership in all industries are quick to move to create actionable strategies that are flexible and responsive to the needs of people. You can only interpret your own definition of people. Additionally, innovative strategies and interventions become not just possible but obtainable. This actually makes sense. Wondered if we applied that racial equity lens to the statement above. Post this crisis, will the powers be with the powers to be that will keep that same energy? Ask for a concerned friend. And that's because some people have been just surviving and trying to get money for shit. And now that this happened, now they got all kind of goddamn money.
Oh yeah, this came out the sky, fell out the sky,
Yeah.
right?
So,
But now they're over there debating about how this money is going to be used, and now this is a delay. We are 2 weeks into this situation, and they still, can't come to an agreement while real people are really suffering and need to have these resources.
my
But
thing
they're-
is, what happened to that measure? What happened to that Measure U money or whatever it was? What happened to that?
Well, we know what happened in the Measure U. We know the president of Measure U. They used most of that money for law enforcement and had spent most of the money before the committee even came together.
Dear sister put a topic on here that said, I don't know, was that 3 minutes? I just think that's
No, that wasn't even our topic. So
okay.
what
So
she said.
dear sister said, Madam C.J. Walker movie, LOL. Oh,
Yes, so let's start our 3 minutes.
Ah.
All right.
I know. Ugh.
Okay, so I'm gonna let you talk about it because I feel like you have a lot to say.
No, I just feel like
and read the comments.
this is just me.
now.
This is just me. I've been studying history my whole life. This is not some shit I learned when I was grown and then got conscious and grew afro. No, since I'm from Philadelphia, I grew up singing the Black National Anthem. I just remember when Black people became very African. I was born in 1971, so I remember that. And so for me, I just get tired of people just writing what the fuck they want to write about people who lived real time. Like, I hate when people put other people's agenda inside of our own struggle or in people's stories. Madam C.J. Walker was a heavyset Black woman. Like, they didn't tell us shit about her that I didn't already know. And did she have other lovers? Did she ever find, like, tell me something about her I don't know. Like, Josephine Baker was another person I grew up loving. When I seen her story, I learned so much other things about her because the story was about her. Now, I know it was inspired because Black folks act like the word inspire is a way to be like, that would excuse lying. But when you usually are inspired by some shit, you try to do it justice, not just make up shit and put in other agendas and the shit ain't got nothing to do with nothing. So I personally didn't like the series. It's hard for me to watch. I just was skimming through like, what the hell is this? I'm just tired of people putting their agendas into Black people's struggle.
Yeah.
I'm just sick of that shit.
I just think watering down. I think it was watering down, and I get tired of seeing, especially Black women portrayed in movies, where they're a shell of the person that we even like. There's information about Madam C.J. Walker. We know more than that. You don't become a millionaire in the early 1900s being a shell of a woman. She had like very low self-esteem and confidence. She was very unsure of herself. I don't know what the boxing match and shit was. What was that?
And the music. Why did they use music from the time period? That's partly what makes a film. Like, we love The Color Purple because the music they used in The Color Purple made you feel like you was back in the day.
Yes, what is going on with that? But I really also think it's important for you to say, what you said is that the same person that did
Harriet Tubman directed it.
She actually is the director of this film, and I just don't think that she has the bandwidth to make complex, storylines, do character development. It's just, I don't know.
I think she may have some. I think she may have some identity issues, but that's just me.
And that's possible, right? But
Yeah.
the thing about it is
That's
like
like trying to have somebody
now,
who
what I will say though is I was happy that they did a movie on her.
I
That
wasn't.
we can actually compare. So hopefully this is the first one. Maybe by the time they do the third, fourth, fifth one, it'll get better. I mean, we talk about white men for years. They get movies for 100 years. We're still
Yeah,
talking.
but they agree on something.
Killing Mockingbird. Like maybe this will be the first one of many, but this one definitely, in my opinion, was subpar. I enjoyed it though,
No,
just because it was a
I
black
did
movie.
not.
I love Octavia Spencer, but it was more of a fiction.
Malachi said the boxing match shit wasted movie time. That's so true. I felt like I was watching. You know, how you ever watch Bollywood movie, and then as soon as they get into something, they start singing and dancing. Like, wait a minute. Like it felt like it was interrupting my. I'm with you on that. I just also think I know I love myself as a black woman, but anything won't do for me. But that's just me.
Okay, Rolanda, but you're talking about the past 3 minutes. You're breaking your own
Oh,
rules.
see, I didn't know that. Okay.
So
We'll do comments. Sorry.
I don't see any comments.
Later said the music score was done by a white dude. Why? Because I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah, because The Color Purple was done by Quincy Jones.
Yes, and we're not talking about this topic anymore. We're actually switching.
Sorry.
But now you guys understand. Thank you, and add more comments if you'd like to have more comments about that topic. But we are actually moving on. So now what I want to talk about is there is a story, and I'm gonna text you the link, Rolanda,
All right.
of a woman in Texas.
Can you just go on Facebook so I could just copy it and paste it on the comments?
Okay, that's probably gonna take more time.
That's all right. Never mind. Go ahead.
She
I can go. I can go.
the link on the live right now.
Yeah, that's all you gotta do. Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna post the link right now. So
I
this
seen
is-
that. Sister had a nice short haircut.
Yes, so she was actually
Oh.
she actually was charged because she voted in an election in Texas and she wasn't supposed to. And today there was an article that came out about upholding that sentence.
Are you
So
serious?
the conversation is about the Texas courts upholding the sentences that they gave to the woman in Texas. She's a black woman that actually voted when she didn't. She wasn't supposed to vote. I'm not quite. I don't remember why again. But the link is on the page. We're gonna start talking about it. And do you see the link?
Yes, I see it.
Okay.
Texas courts uphold woman's 5-year sentence for trying to vote. Now, this is ridiculous. This is also Texas.
I 3 minutes. And we want people to chime in. So the conversation, the link is in the comments. The conversation is about the black lady in Texas that she's been sentenced before already, right? And so now the courts decided today and so we're going to talk about that for 3 minutes, and after that 3 minutes is up, even myself and Rolanda will no longer talk about it.
Okay, let me just say this because
now
somebody new came in. So, Sister Delphine, should we only talk about something for 3 minutes and we move on to the next topic? Because she had wrote a topic about Madam C.J. Walker, and we moved on. So sorry about that, sis. But we'll go in afterwards and comment.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I think this is horrible.
She in Texas. She voted in an election. I don't even know how do you find out somebody do they go through the voter rolls to find out who I didn't even. So this is just voter suppression and to another level. But she was sentenced to 5 years for voting in an election when she was not eligible to vote. The link is in the comments again. I just think
how could she vote though?
This is a disservice. Like, how do you in 2000s go to jail? As much voter fraud and suppression that is going on in this country, how is this justified to give this lady 5 years? for voting in an election. So it says in 2016, Mason was on federally supervised release for a prior conviction of tax fraud. She'd never been told she couldn't vote. And in fact, her probation officer testified to that fact during her trial. And she still was given 5 years because she voted in this election. I want to really point out that, like, we often talk about the injustices in the justice system, but we often talk about that from a very limited lens, and which focuses mostly on Black men and boys. But Black women are also disproportionately affected by the criminal justice system in this country, and it looks like things like this.
Right on. What's the timer?
This is a disservice for them to even put this lady through that. This is a clear case of voter suppression, and you know we have this election coming up in November, so this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out and if this will be happening in other places, because they're really trying to make sure that we don't vote.
Okay, what's the timer?
2:18. Go.
Oh man, no, I'm good. I agree with you. Diddle. I agree with you. I think that we just need to have some clear examples. There's really nothing else I can say on top of that, because that is voter suppression. I mean, like, give me a break. We got other people doing real crimes, and so why is this woman in jail for 5 years for voting? That just don't make no goddamn sense.
Absolutely.
Period. As old people say. Period. Point blank. Dot. The end of that.
Yeah. And I think that's something when we think about activism that we need to pay attention to, because there's a reason why they don't want us to vote. Now
that's true. That's true. Sister Elena gave us a few things to talk about in Hot Topics.
All right, so stopping. We're at 3 minutes.
All right.
3 minutes. So thank you for your topics, Alana. So we're actually going to move on, because we actually do have a topic that, well, we want to talk about the other topics that we came up with for the rest of this Late Night with Queens, featuring myself, Christy, and Rolanda.
So, Christy, let me just say this.
Thank you for playing. So this is how you do mind-blowing conversations. So tomorrow when we start, we're going to already have the topics. People need to be ready. We'll let you know what those topics are, so people can think about them during the day. Okay. We'll post it when we do a reminder of the show for tomorrow night, and then people come up with their comments, post them, so that we can read your comments and we can have a conversation about those topics. But we only are doing it for 3 minutes. So you have participated in your first mind-blowing conversation.
All right. Christy, you're so cute. All right.
And that's it.
All right. So what are some of these topics we hope to talk about over the next couple of days here?
So go ahead and put the list up so that people can see the topics we came up with.
Okay. Here comes the list. As soon as it load up here. Here's the first list. Okay. And so now the list is up.
So we really want to, so these topics that you're seeing are as a result of about 3 mile walk me and Rolanda had the other day, and when I was coerced to participate in this, and we're gonna do this Late Night with Queens for this week. That's what I could commit to.
Right.
So we're committing to doing it for this week. But these are the topics that we came up with, and we really want to hear like the top 2 from people that are watching right now. So we want to know which top 2 topics that are a part of this list are you all most interested in talking about. So please, in the comments, let us know what are the topics that you feel like you would like to talk about. So this is very different than the mind-blowing conversation. The mind-blowing conversation is we can talk about whatever we want to talk about, right? But the Late Night with Queens segment, every night we will be talking about one of these topics that has been put on the list. And so you should see them on the feed right now. I'll read the topics. I can't see the whole list, but I can read them from my phone though.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
So one of the topics was how do we work with each other as Black women despite our differences?
Because that I think is major, because I think we have a lot of very powerful Black women in Sacramento. And we have a lot of, we have a lot of Black girls who
brilliant Black women.
Yeah. But I also know But here's the truth. We have a lot of successful, educated. That's one group. We have some black people who are not as educated in terms of college, but they're still very valuable. See, I think that in our community, we are pretty siloed, you know, and I think we have to figure out how to work past each other's differences. Like where do we meet at? And so that what I think would be a really good topic to roll out. So that's why we have that one up there. Essence Taylor says she liked number 2, which says, how do black women cuddle black boys and men? And I'm gonna tell, or black men and boys, and I'm gonna tell you that's a hot one because women don't think they do that.
Yeah, but they do.
They be thinking.
Put the list back up, Rolanda.
Okay, put the list up.
So the top 2, we want to know your top 2 topics. And yes, that is Coddle, CODDLE. You know what we talking about, Essence. Don't play. So she's going to put the topics back up on the screen. And actually, I'm going to post them in the comments so that you can see them as well. So these are the topics. We came up with our top 8, and we want to know what top 2 out of this list that are most interesting for you all that are watching the show tonight.
Okay. And I think we can have that conversation without making it feel like we're bashing boys or men or whatever. I just feel like, I don't know. I was just always taught to believe the buck kind of stops with the woman because we really set the tone. And I think people, I don't know if it's because of our indoctrination through religion and family makeup. I don't know. I'm trying to say the right word here. Where we allow certain things and then we expect other women to do the same thing. And when you don't, then it's like you're not being supportive and you're not being this. Or when we read about all this damn domestic violence and the shit people put up with, that has something to do.
And so the next question was, I oftentimes hear particularly black women talk about feminism in a way that was not taught to me. I learned from women like Audre Lorde and I think Bell Hooks is more into womanism, but she broke both of those two, both of them. And I just think that we don't have a clear understanding of what that means, what feminism means, what it means to us as black women. I think I know for a fact that that was some of the ways that I was politicized and how I became very clear about my work and my divine purpose. It really gave me a sense of power. We're socialized to not think about feminism and womanism. Nothing that we're socialized to think and believe has anything to do with feminism and womanism. And I'm thinking about like what we're taught in regards to religion, and taught about what does it mean to be a woman and what's expected of us. And so we really need to do our history, and we need to study, and we need to stop going by what other people say. Like I say this all the time, have receipts. Stop talking off the top of your dome about things that you have no idea about. Because a lot of black women did a lot of work to make sure that the intersectionality of what it meant to be black and to be a woman and to be in your sexual orientation and what it means about equity and equality and all of those different things. There is a great and wonderful books, and so we really want to talk about that as well. One of the next topics.
So before we get off that, Christy, though, before we get off, I want to put some balance to that, because even when we look at the history of black feminism and womanism, that may not be everybody's story, because I didn't learn about feminism. I experienced black feminists, and they were just as oppressive as white women and white men. So we got to look at this balance, because I work. That's why I know sometimes educated black women. When I looked at Miss Virginia video, the movie, when that woman who was the woman basically letting her know, yeah, your child, he'll get there one day. To me, I mean, some people use tools to oppress other people when that's not what it was designed for. But if this person's up here saying, hey, we're feminists, because these are women I work for that were feminists. They came of age in the 60s in feminism and burning bras. But they were as oppressive as some white supremacists.
Agreed.
That's all I'm saying. And I know that's not probably how it was designed, but I think some people come out of experience, because I know I did.
But we know that we live in a culture of like self-proclaiming, right? Like, for instance, in Sacramento, somebody can say, I'm Mr. Sacramento. And then everybody be like, oh, that's Mr. Sacramento. Like, you gotta check shit like that, because, like, I'm sorry, it's just like love. That shit hurt, that ain't love. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
like, we really need to have a better understanding of things and concepts, and, like, just also, like I said before, just having a better understanding of the work that many have done before us, right? Because
But that don't mean the stuff is clean. I'm just gonna be honest. That's like we could love Madam C.J. Walker, but she could have been a bitch to some people, and that don't take away from it don't.
For sure.
But I'm just saying, you know how like that's what, like when you work for great people, people could look at. That's why I'm not shocked when they said Dr. King smoked cigarettes or he cheated. I'm not shocked, because it doesn't mean the person's perfect. It just means that, you know, we do imagery very well, and then we wrap it around the idea, but it's like, wait a minute.
And we put people on the pedestal, right?
Right. So it's kind of like, well, I mean, you know, sometimes you got to know, like, okay, this is a little too much feminine energy for me, and I got to get there. Because I can't be around overly feminine energy, sometimes almost come out like hatery, because I've experienced that too.
But again, I don't see that as that. Like,
I do, because I think it's all the same thing. I think it's like extremism. It's always like, how do you find a balance? That's all I'm saying. It's a balance. I love it when a woman stands in her power and she's great, but I don't like when you be like, and we don't want no men in here. It's like, well, hold the fuck up. Like, hold up.
But that's not what it's about either.
But you know, some people do that.
For me.
Right. I get you. Me either. I get you. See, I think that would be a great topic.
Our next question, the next topic that we talked about is healthy relationships.
Yes.
And what does that mean to yourself, to your family, your friendships, and your community?
Right on.
I think we have a misconstrued idea of like what does healthy look like, and I think some of it is about like what you've been socialized to think is healthy, and what you saw and how you were raised and where you were raised and who you were raised by or who you've had relationships with. So I think definitely we want to talk about healthy relationships and how it's a part of the whole thing, right? It's not just romantic relationships. It's across the board. How are we having healthy relationships or not, right? Yeah,
I think that's good too. I'm not trying to be funny, so I do watch a lot of Paternity Court. I'm sorry, y'all. I think Judge Laura Lake is the bomb, but because I like the way she do homegirl, but then she keep it solid. But I've watched a lot of women really struggle with this thing around dads, whether it's like who the father of your kid is or them not having a dad. And so that's not all we're going to look at, but I do think there's something to that when you have this idea of what you think a father does, but you don't even know what a role of a dad really does, because we looking at stuff on TV or we're looking at, I don't know, Love and Hip Hop. I don't know. But it's kind of like, I think we don't.
That's coming on tonight. I'm going to watch it.
See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? But I feel like that has something to do with an idea of the way we see fathers, or what's the role of a mom? What does a mother really do? When do mothers back off their kids, or is it a gradual backing off? Like in your relationship with your mom or with your children or with your friends. When do you set boundaries for your friends? When you be like, oh, you don't want you got in for. Like, how do you do that in a healthy relationship? Because all those things is a part of a healthy relationship. So I think that would be really good, Christy.
I think so too. Read the rest of them. I'm gonna make some comments.
All right, good. Number 5 is religion versus spirituality, indoctrination versus freedom. What does it really look like to be a free black woman? Now that is major.
Wait, I think you did more than one topic together.
Wait a minute, those two together? Oh shit.
No, you did.
Okay, I'm sorry. So number 5 is religion versus spirituality, indoctrination versus freedom.
Yes.
Bam, by itself. Sorry, y'all. I done messed up. I done messed up totally. Okay, I
You
done
was putting it on, Jess.
I was like, you gotta be free. You just make it. No. So that's gonna be another hot topic. You know what I mean? I just feel like, I just feel like, I think religion has its place, but I also think sometimes religion can be limiting when you can't question and you have to go by a book which somebody wrote, as opposed to spirituality. I mean, you have to be constantly working. You have to be responsible for yourself, and the two can overlap, but I don't think they're the same thing, right? You know what I mean?
Also, like for instance, I don't know if many know about Empress Ready. If you don't know about Empress Ready, particularly women,
Okay.
she has some wonderful products where she's really looking holistically, where she has stuff, about your yoni, which is, your vagina care and things about the yoni and how to keep it healthy. She also has stuff, like natural body creams and different things like that are, some of these things that when we talk about spirituality and when we talk about holistic, like these are things that our grandmothers and our great grandmothers and a lot of them use. And when we talk about spirituality, like, some of them say, oh, that's just, that's just a myth or what they call them when you think something and it's like, it could be
superstitious.
Okay. Like, oh, that's just superstitious or whatever. But a lot of those things came from someplace. So I say that all to say is that London Boogie, Empress Ready, who has a shop in the 2251 Foreign Road Incubator, she does a full moon ceremony once a month, and she'll be doing it on Wednesday. And that is a thing that our grandmothers use in regards to full moon and different rituals and things that they did around that time. Even farmers do things around the full moon.
Right.
That is to and the guise of white supremacy that we have lost as a result of them telling us, oh, that's voodoo, that's this, that's that. We need to start reclaiming some of those things.
They got you afraid of your own stuff because they use it.
And they use it. They told us to stop breastfeeding our kids, but they breastfeed their kids. They have doulas, and they can pay for them. They told us we don't need doulas. Shit, we probably had better birth outcomes when we wasn't in these damn hospitals. Let's just keep it real. Like, it's a mess. Okay, so moving on.
Okay.
The next topic is, what does it look like to be a free Black woman?
Right on.
What does it look like, Rolanda?
Be
free. But you're not Becky. So you're free like Becky, but you're not Becky. We think of our ancestors and people that came before us and some of the things they did. When I think about a free Black woman, I think about Ida B. Wells and the things that she was able to do in the 1940s. Like, she was doing a lot of wonderful things, traveling abroad. She was a mother. She was a wife. She had her own business. She sued the local government because she also didn't give up her seat in the bus in another state. Like, there are women that really embodied what it meant to be a free Black woman, and we don't talk about them a lot. So I think this will be a good topic to talk about.
And there are people amongst us that are free, but sometimes when you're a freed woman, you can't be with people who are enslaved to things.
Yeah.
And to ideas.
They be asking you, why you not doing this? Why you not doing that?
Like when you see somebody smiling all the time or they're in good spirits, that's a
free.
What you just said.
Good question.
But I think that
Okay.
would be great to look at that.
So the next question is, what opportunities does this new reality create personally, professionally, and in community? So I definitely think we need to start talking about that. I think Paris said that earlier. It's like, what is this? What after Corona, beyond Corona, what is we gonna be doing? Because the world is gonna look very different, and so we need to prepare for that. We need to prepare our children for that.
Do you think, Christy, that we are kind of like in because when I'm in this time, this feels very sci-fi-ish to me. This is stuff that you would see like when you watch the Jetsons or if you watch Mad Max and I'm not like trying to spook anybody out, but you ever remember watching the Jetsons? You'd be like, they're going to school by looking at the TV. You remember that they have like the class, the robot will come up teaching their class and like could that really happen? And now to be living in a time where here I'm talking to you on the computer and we broadcasting there. I mean, stuff like that. Like, now we're in the place where you're going to have to order stuff and have it be delivered to you through a screen.
Right.
Not necessarily teleporting in terms of like Dr. Spock beam me up no, but how many of us is going to make that leap?
Right.
Or how many of us going to be living?
If they don't make the leap going to lead their ass.
So you remember in Mad Max, there were people who lived in the sewer and people who lived underground because they could not afford oxygen. They could not afford the things to have you live as a regular human being. So we laugh about all of those we call it sci-fi, but it has a lot of reality to it.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
It ain't too much. It ain't fantasy the way we think it is. So
okay. So the next topic is the legacy of our grandmothers. I think we're gonna. I want us to talk about that tomorrow, actually, because I really want to set a foundation for the women and the people that came before us. Recently, February 10th, my grandmother passed away, and it was just so awesome to think about all of the treasures and all of the things that she taught me, and I learned from her, and how she left a legacy, right? Like she had something, like her parents were sharecroppers in Georgia. She came to Sacramento with her family because they had to sneak away from Georgia, right?
Right on.
They left in a covered wagon, got on the train. It took a long time for them to get here. And then, now her daughter and her daughter's children and her great-grandchildren and all these, like, we need to talk about our legacy of our grandmothers because this is a continuum. Like, we're not here alone and by ourselves. We came here from somebody, right? And a great group of people because we shouldn't be here, actually. If it wasn't for our grandmothers, we wouldn't be here today. So we're going to talk about that actually tomorrow because I really want that. So we want to hear your stories about your grandmothers and what the things that they went through and some of the things that you did not have to go through because they had those experiences. Like, what is the legacy of our grandmothers? I think that's going to be that's going to be fun.
Yeah, and I think also was looking at sacrifices. When I think of my foremothers, I think stuff that we're tripping off of people not doing today. That's something that they did to survive because they knew they weren't going to see the day, but they knew they had descendants who were, and they were trying to prepare them as much as they could to be present in that day and time.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, and they were thinking that far ahead, right?
Yep. That's
like,
so
I think
true.
That's just amazing that they didn't just think about themselves. They thought about their children and their children's children. And now, like for me to look back at my grandmother, she passed when she was 90, and to see all the people that came from her, right? And the lessons that she taught us all, and she taught us, we got different lessons, and we had different relationships with her, and some of them weren't all that good, but even in those things, we were able to learn a lot from my grandmother, and that's definitely something that we're talking about tomorrow. So please, if you have pictures of your grandmother, if there's stories about your grandmother, please share. Talk about that tomorrow when we reconvene tomorrow evening. Let me get through this list because we want to hear your top two. Your top two of the list that is in the comments. So if you don't see it, go up the comments and you'll see the list of topics that we will be focusing on with Late Nights with Queens this week. And so the next topic is the history of Black women organizations and organizing. Black women have never had a time particularly when they've been in this country when they wasn't organizing.
And we wasn't working. I'm just kidding.
And organizations, Black-led organizations, like what's the history of that? You know, do you know any Black-led organizations? And I mean truly Black-led organizations. Like these are the organizations that they founded, that they created. And oftentimes they don't look like nonprofits.
Right.
So Black women-led organizations don't always look like nonprofits. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and say that nonprofits try to mirror, right, the work of Black women in organizing. If we're talking about the Montgomery bus boycott and Joanne Robinson, I think was her name, in Montgomery, and the things that she did to get that movement even up and running, and how that didn't start in one day as was been taught to us. It was ongoing organizing and strategizing and work, right?
Right on.
And then the last topic is going to be a Black women trivia, the movements they were part of. I just am so tired of people that don't know who Black women that have contributed besides Rosa Parks, and who's another one that we hear all the time. We hear about Rosa Parks
and Dorothy Heights. I hear about Dorothy Heights.
I don't even think a lot of people. How many of y'all listen to us know who Dorothy Heights is? Put a raise your hand emoji.
The Negro lady. I think she was the only Black woman at the march, right, on the stage with Dr. King.
Yeah,
that's how I first heard of her.
There was another one though.
They always talk about her. That's the only reason I know Dr. Heights, and then the Negro Ladies Association. That's her, right?
Yeah. She was a part of the Negro Women's. Yeah. I think she was probably one of the founders of it, right?
Yeah. So I'm just saying, when you said those are the only two women that I know, I'm not trying to be funny, no disrespect, but when I look at her and Rosa Parks, it's a type there. But you're not gonna see Fannie Lou Hamer in that same kind. I mean, there's just like some people you're not gonna see.
Ella Baker.
Miss Ella Baker.
Let's talk about Miss Ella Baker.
Right.
Miss Ella Baker was like, when we talk about organizations and organizing, you can't talk about that without talking about an Ella Baker.
Right on. Sure. So I'm with you on that. I definitely think we need to.
So those are our top topics. So again, pick your top 2 topics that you want us to talk about with Late Nights with Queens. And we want to hear from you all. Tomorrow we'll be talking about the legacy of our grandmothers. I'm really excited about that.
Me too.
Because, of course, like I said earlier, my grandmother passed on February 10th. And it's just been, because we celebrated her while she was here on Earth, it's just been now an opportunity to reflect on her time here with us and what we learned. And, you know, like, I think it's just great to think about, like, we're part of a continuum, and how I often think about, like, how am I continuing the legacy of my grandmother and then my mother and, you know, the people and the women that came before me and my family.
Right on, Christy. All right. Well, that's
our
list.
People that picked their top 2 topics was Alana and I think Essence. So what's your top 2?
Mine, I like the grandmothers, and I like talking about, God, all of them is good. Let me look at this thing. I like the grandmothers flat out. And then I think I also like to talk about the opportunities in the new reality.
Okay.
Because one is like the past, and then the other one is like building for the future through the present.
Yes.
Because this is something that's happening right now. And so I feel like we're going to need to know a lot about the legacy of our grandmothers, because even though we're going into this new kind of world, it still has old world results.
Yep.
So if you don't know how to sacrifice, you're not going to do good. Your foremothers sacrificed. It was not all about them.
They were connected.
And they were very connected.
To each other.
And they were connected to the earth, and a lot of those rituals and ceremonies and ancient ways that you talked about, like understanding the moon cycle and why you should drink a lot of water and just real basic shit. Because these are people who survived with barely anything, and
even
who were
praying.
Yeah.
Remember the women praying circles?
Right on.
Yeah, like women coming together and doing prayer circles.
Right on.
Your name out there.
Right
saying
on.
it out loud,
Right on.
going to the altars, having altars, right? I think that's
Yeah.
something that you
And
definitely
organizing.
have taught a lot of
Oh
us
yeah.
about altars and all those
Yeah.
things.
And organizing, and also making sure we make a way for the babies.
Yeah,
I went to go
that
see
should
my
be our
great.
biggest concern.
I went to go see my great nephew today. As soon as he seen me in the door, and I was like, "Yeah!" He was sort of busting up laughing like that. So when you see a face like that, it's like, yeah, ain't really about me.
Right,
I'm
and
just
we have to
passing
do
through
better
here.
because I think we've dropped the ball for our babies
I
in
agree.
a lot of instances.
Right
So
on.
yeah, like, I think about that too. Like, people have been posting their children and their first birthdays and different things have happened during this time that we've
Yeah.
been in social distancing, right? And just think about like whatever is going on, we need to be thinking about these babies, right? What kind of world are we bringing them into? What are they going to be able to? What do they have? Like,
Do you,
are we leaving something tangible for them to even work with?
right on. Do you think do you think some black folks can understand what social distancing means?
We're a community that doesn't know. We don't. That's not foreign to us, right? Like, it's hard not to go and like my friends. I hug my friends. I tell my friends I love them, but
We didn't grow up with personal space. That's some shit we learned from white people. I need my personal space, like
6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet.
yeah, we didn't grow
I
up
like the
with personal.
videos when they're showing the people like spraying people with Lysol. I've been doing that shit. Like, that ain't new to me. Like wiping off the seats on the airplane.
That's so true.
I got hand sanitizer and some antibacterial wipes. Like,
You killing me. You killing me, Christy. You killing me, Christy. But it's true. I just wonder if black people understand what social distancing means. Because I was in the store, and this is no lie today. They had the little lines. The black man didn't even see the goddamn line on the ground. I was like, I just looked back at his ass like, dude, you don't see the tape? Do you wonder why I'm standing so far back from the next lady? That black man came and I said, I don't think we understand what social distancing means. Even with the tape on the ground.
And that's why people get the shit. Like, and I think it's so interesting. That's like, black people can't get corona, but I've been seeing a whole lot of black people with corona.
Well, maybe these, especially some black people, I use words like some, like talk about how mixed they is, so maybe it's that.
Rolanda, you better stop.
Because I didn't see, what's his name, Eridus? What's his name? I didn't see him with his mask on. He said he tested positive. He act like he just tested positive like for a new role in the movie or some shit. He didn't have no mask on. He was like, I've tested
Well, him and
positive.
his wife got it, and
Yeah,
they've been in
yeah.
isolation.
And then can you do social distancing with your partner?
No.
I mean, how the hell does that work?
Well, what I want to say is they need to tell us they ain't going to tell us shit. But we need to know what this really is about. Because I'm sorry, this is way bigger than what they're telling us what it is. I'm just hoping by April 7th we can have some kind of normalcy, some kind of way. Your president said, this is a working country. Like, we don't stop. We need to be building.
I'm gonna be shocked if they pass something where we're not gonna be able to do an election.
Well, would we be surprised? Would you be surprised?
Because this shit only happens when we have Republican presidents.
And
Because 9/11 happened and we had Bush with his upside down book. And now we got this fool here who every time he does a press conference, he has to stop and cuss people out. It's like, he's like he has Tourette's or some shit. It's like, let your cabinet do their job, the experts.
And he don't even have doctors at his the press conferences. They ain't a near doctor. No,
you see the one man wanted to,
up there with him.
You see the one man who wanted to laugh, but then he had to put his hand over his face like this.
He was like, this is a mess. He was like, I'm a part of a mess.
It's like, So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we know how to do social distancing. I think in certain communities. Last thing, Chris, let you go. Did you see Godfrey's clip about Asian people with this being called the Asian flu, or them looking to the black race to help them?
I haven't seen. I like him, the comedian Godfrey.
You gotta see this. You're gonna crack up laughing because I laugh because he sounds like a British person when he does it. but he'll just be like, now they're looking to the black race. And it's like, you know, where were you all? You know, like, you come in our communities, you know.
Y'all, it's 10 o'clock,
Okay.
so we want to go over what we're going to be doing for the rest of the week.
Yep.
We want to hear topics that you want to talk about. Anything that you want to talk about, please send those topics to either myself, and if we're on Facebook, Christy H. Ketchum, or Rolanda. And if you're on her page right now looking at the live, then all you have to do is do a message to her, send her, say this is a mind-blowing conversation topic, and we'll talk about the topics tomorrow. We only have 3 minutes, and then we're moving on. And then the discussion for the day tomorrow will be the legacy of our grandmothers. We want to hear the stories that you have about your grandmothers and what they taught you, the lessons learned, some of their experiences. So we look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow.
Bye. Don't hang up, though, Christy, when we get off this live. Okay. Bye, y'all.